What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another live stream, episode 128 of the Camera Junkie live stream. And as always, I thank you for taking the time and spending it here with me. But yes, you did hear correct. That is number 128. That is 128 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream without skipping a beat. My name's Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie. If it's the first time here, please introduce yourself in the chat so that you can get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And let me just check on my son. You okay? Gotta do dad duties before anything. But like I was saying, if it is your first time, please make sure to introduce yourself in the chat so you can get nicely acquainted with the Camera Junkie crew, get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And with that being said, as always, let's start out to see exactly who's here. All right, right off the bat, we have John in the house saying hi to Kevin. Kevin saying hello to everyone. Oh, these comments are way too small. Let's fix that right now. There we go. That's much better. All right. And Kevin was saying hello to all. He also said, do not forget to hit that like button on the way in, and please do so, is highly appreciated. He's saying hi to John. This is my message. I'm going to put this up there. When you forget to hit the stream and have a 2-minute countdown recording. Oh, I misspelled it, but I was laughing too hard because that's exactly what happened today. Hey, what's up, Paul? Today, I hit the thing and I'm listening to the music and I'm jamming out and I'm like just waiting for the countdown, putting in my little earpiece, getting the whole thing set up. And then I'm looking and I'm like, there's nobody in chat. And I'm like, start looking at why this looks a little weird, and then I see right away that I'm just recording and that I haven't even selected a stream to. Hey, Kathy's in the house saying hello to everyone. Dr. Sev is also here. How are you doing? Welcome. All right, and today we're going to be talking about live streaming with the Sony ZV-1F. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm actually using it to stream now. I've kind of replaced my front-facing camera with the ZV-E1, and I'm using it in kind of its most basic settings. And the reason why I say kind of is because it's not directly into intelligent auto, which means like it would be controlling everything. And I'm gonna show you a little bit about that right now. So I'm gonna move into my previous first shot, and this is actually the ZV-1F in front of my normal A6100, which is where I do my live streams weekly. But right here you can see that we're broadcasting at high definition 720p 30 frames a second, but it's also giving you a little bit more information, also showing you how well it's tracking my eye, even though they said that this camera is supposed to have bad autofocus. Now, it might not have the best autofocus, but bad is far from what this camera is capable of. But a couple of things that I will mention is that we're shooting at 30 frames, so I made sure that my shutter speed is at 1/60. We're shooting at f2 right here. You should be able to see it there. f2, so I have the aperture open as wide as possible to give it the most blurry background, but also to allow as much light as possible so that we can keep this number here, the ISO, as low as possible to get the cleanest image. And with that, basically have the standard settings excuse me, and this thing that this thing here that says off, that's the product showcase mode, standard. This is that I have off on the touch functionality because this is a touch screen, but because I'm not using it at the moment, and a lot of times when I vlog, I'm actually holding the camera with it there. I don't want my fingers to accidentally start pushing buttons when it doesn't need to, so it's a cool feature that just right here you can basically turn on and off the touch functionalities of the camera, like while you're using it on the fly. So now, as the one other thing that I want to show is that right in this area here, we just have that one USB-C cable connected, nothing around it, right? So all in this area we see nothing, and the only thing that's connected is the USB-C cable, and that USB-C cable is actually doing everything possible at the moment. It is powering up the Sony ZV-1F. It's also transmitting the 720 30 frames a second image that you're seeing right now. But another thing that it does that most people don't know is that it also provides the audio directly from the USB-C, similar to like transmitting it through HDMI. So this camera is basically an all-in-one webcam kit, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a little bit because I'm going to switch my audio source to the audio from the camera and move it away from this nice SM7B. So let's get to doing that real quick. The way that I'm going to do it, and just to show you, well, actually in another time I can better illustrate crisp camera, but right now I'm going to change my crisp camera source from my Shure SM7B to the ZV-1F. So let me check my levels. Okay. Yep. Now, as you can see here, I can just bang away on this microphone. I'm muting it completely. And now this is the audio coming directly from the ZV-1F. So now, if I go back to this scene, oh, not that one, that scene, as you can see now, this microphone right up here, this is what you're listening to at the moment. And with the power of crisp audio, which I do advocate for, it's also blocking out all the extra background noise. So my air conditioning, Aiden's TV, his entertainment, whatever noises he could be making, all of that is still being cleared up with the crisp audio, but now my microphone source is the one directly on top of the camera. This is probably the easiest, most minimalistic setup that I can think of. So just this one camera, Ecamm, and my super lightweight MacBook Air is my minimalistic portable live stream solution, because it can take care of all the aspects, including the fact that with Ecamm I'm still playing music. So this is all being taken care of, and I think the image is actually like surprisingly good because you're able to adjust it in those manners. Now you can just put the camera into intelligent auto mode, right, so that it handles all the aspects that I was showing, shutter speed, and it makes it even easier because you still be able to transmit the audio, video, and power the camera without having to think of a thing. And not having to worry about anything either. So just having this camera, one USB-C cable, and a simple MacBook Air is my portable solution. I've used it once when I did a live stream in Orlando, and it was so convenient, and I wanted to touch base on it because I have been using this camera, well, I've owned it already for 6 months. So this is kind of like a 6-month review on this piece of kit, but I also want to show you in real time exactly how this could be implemented. So I think I can move over to this one, and you can see I just have the ZV-1 literally in front of my entire setup here with my teleprompter, my confidence monitor, everything that's here. And as you can see, this is my SM7B. It's red because it's muted, and now all of the audio is coming directly from the camera. So this camera can also be utilized to get an even higher quality image. Oh, excuse me. Did I mess it up? Oh, I did. There we go. This is the shot. It's a new scene, so I don't have it set up in my stream deck. But this camera still has the capability of producing a 4K image that might rival the same image that I'm getting from my A6100, because of the fact that I'm using it with this one cable solution. Doesn't mean that it's limited to it. This is just one of the easy functionalities of basically plug-in playing this camera onto any computer that can run Ecamm. So basically any Windows computer, but I would once again recommend, did I say Windows? Let me know if I said that, because I was trying to say not Windows. Any Mac computer, any Apple product, you'll be able to utilize Ecamm. And with Ecamm, and I would recommend anything M1, that's why I said the MacBook Air M1 is basically the least that I would say to use, but that's really in the minimalistic aspect. And I want to emphasize on that, because don't recommend using, you know, the MacBook Air as your Ecamm machine. For example, I have all these cameras and everything connected. I do have a Mac Studio. So the Mac Studio, no, that's the one. All these cameras are getting switched up. The Mac Studio sitting here is more than capable of doing all of this without any issue. But I wouldn't put two cameras, or maybe even like try to add a capture card, like a Camlink 4K, add an audio interface, other things like that to, for example, the MacBook Air, because it's gonna be too much for the processor and what you're trying to get out of it. And at that point, it could be easily said that you could be disappointed with your experience, and it's not really fault of Ecamm. It is the fact that it's not recommended for this device. With that being said, as a minimalistic, lightweight, setup, I myself am recommending the MacBook Air and a ZV-1F, using it in this manner, 720p, and not trying to exceed that, but also showing that not all resolutions are created equal. Because even though this is a 720p image, I would much prefer the image that we're getting from here than something that I would get from here. Now this is what, like a $30 webcam that you can get on Amazon, basically no name brand, generic, and just simply plugs in. And the reason why I bring this up is because this also carries a microphone which sounds like hot trash. But to demonstrate not the microphone but the image quality, I'm gonna plug it in. I'm just gonna hold it next to this setup here because I wasn't thinking about putting it on there. Or maybe I could hang it on top. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we're getting a feed for it. I don't think it's coming up. Okay, so let's scratch that idea. But testing. Okay. Well, thank you for that information, and this is just another shout out to Mr. Moderator Paul Duncan. That worked flawlessly because I saw it come up right here on my phone. Let's get to it. My phone is right here with my Discord opened up, and I just saw mute. I was able to take care of that in a timely manner. Oh, let me bring down the music. Yeah, one second. So yes, thank you again to Mr. Moderator Paul Duncan for taking care of that. But just to give you guys a little bit of information, I don't know what happened, but I do know what happened. What's going on? Now it's working, but okay, I'm just gonna give you guys the 411 right off the bat. Okay, Crisp, that I was just praising, shut down on me for whatever reason. It just like disappeared from the taskbar, and because that was my microphone, that's actually what went on mute. And now, even though that it's open and it's working, because I see the levels and I'm looking right at them, it's still saying like that it's not working. You know, like it's not active. So it could be on me. I'll take responsibility. I did not reboot my computer. I did not shut down and reboot it before the live stream. So I will take, I'll take what's it? Like I'll take responsibility for it, right? So not everything's acting correctly, but that's on me switching microphones in the middle of a live stream. But still to give you the experience of what it would look like and what it would sound like using just the Sony ZV-1. Because a lot of things that you'd hear from a lot of different peoples, a lot of different creators, one of them being Jared Spink from Hive Media and the Hive podcast, is always talking about just start, right? Just start with whatever it is that you have. But this is a good starting off point if you do want to invest some money, because this camera after 6 months has really surprised me with its functionality, and it being that it's only $500. Now, it is as simple as you want it to be, but it could also be as complex as some of the higher end cameras. The fact that you can record an S-Log and start dealing with flat color profiles directly within the camera, and then messing with that in post-production and upgrading your skills in that color space, right? In that post-production, LUT game, so to speak, on using a variety of different color styles to dial in a particular look. And all of that is accessible starting off at $500, which is what really impresses me with this camera. Like, I find it hard to knock on this camera. The one thing that I would say is like the battery life is not, once you start using the camera because you like it, you're not really gonna start being happy with how fast the camera drains, because the batteries are tiny. But for that case, I highly recommend grabbing some extras. So even though I have one in the camera, still have two of them here as backups. And it's good and bad, because it's bad that the camera battery is so small and for that reason it drains, but also good that carrying around a couple of extra batteries is only this big. Like, this is nothing. This doesn't even compare to, like, it is basically the size of one of my NPF 50s, and these are small. So that would be it Now I'm gonna see if you guys have any questions or anything like that that we can dive into about this camera, but to kind of go into this view as well. As you can see, when you have it in there, is being plugged in 720p, 30 frames a second, and this is the image that you can get out of it. Yeah. Once again, highly impressed with the capabilities of this small, lightweight, compact camera. And if you haven't seen my video on the accessories for it, I would definitely tell you to check it out, because one of them saved my booty today, that being the lanyard. A simple little lanyard on this thing, and I was, looking over the camera to see exactly what aspects I was going to talk about, and it slipped. It's lightweight, but I was like, man, this thing's so light, and it slipped out of my hand. A good thing that lanyard caught. I was like, it saved my bacon. All right. Excuse me. I was about to unmute and mute the SM7B. Totally forgot that I wasn't even using it today, or at this moment. Okay. So everybody's still saying hi to each other in this part of the chat. Yes, I like this. I'm just gonna leave that there for the moment. Marinex says that camera looks so icy, and it does look good, right? This is 720p, and once again, I reiterate, not all resolutions are made equal. So if you know what you're doing and you want to maximize, you can get a really good image from 720. It is the entry level into high definition. And for those of you who weren't around at that time, back in the day, 1999, 2000, when this technology was becoming more prevalent, it was when we were introduced to first iterations of high definition. And the first iteration was still for 480, but it was P, which was called progressive scan, which is what that stands for. And the progressive scan basically gives you twice the amount of frames, hypothetically, and that's why the image looked that much clearer. Then when the resolution bump came in, that was when we first got high definition, which was 720p. And after that, when we were introduced to 1080p and 1080i, was when we were introduced to the term full HD, because it was just that next step. So they wanted to separate it from just standard high definition at 720, but full HD was 1080. And this full HD 1080 webcam is full of you know what. Sammy's in the house. You know what, let me do this. I had to clear my throat there. All right, Mr. Moderator dropping links for Crisp. Be warned, if you start messing with it during the live stream, it could bite you in the butt and just mute you randomly. All right, so D's got a question saying, so the camera sending Ecamm 720 and you're sending YouTube 4K seems to be working well. Yes. And here's another bit of information for those of you, if you're interested. I will be touching on exactly what I'm going to reference right now, a little bit more tomorrow in the live stream with DJ Strick on the Ecamm channel. So the stream show, I'm going to be on there tomorrow talking about cameras like I love to do, and basically touching on this same exact thing with Ecamm, because Ecamm is pumping out a 4K image, and that's what I'm producing from the computer. So the resolution that's being kicked out is of the highest quality in 4K. So what that does, right? What that does, it kind of upscales or enhances an image from a lesser camera like the 720p image that we're getting from the ZV-1F. The reason why is because you're allocating and you're setting aside a much wider bandwidth lane that's going to be necessary to provide a 4K image. And once you're doing that 4K image and you have all that space, it's much easier for you to send the full bit rate of 720 because it fits that much easier within the bandwidth of 4K than if you were to try to send a higher 4K image that might need to be compressed down so that it can be transmitted in that high capacity. Hopefully that I was able to convey that correctly, but that's another way that I explained it is like, let's say 720p is only one lane of the street, like one lane of the highway, and that's all the space that you need. Now, you can navigate that easily, but if you're in bumper to bumper traffic, you're going to be running a bit slow, right? But now imagine that 4K is 4 lanes of highway, and that gets converted into just your one single lane, and there's no other cars on the street. You're gonna be able to drive very easily and at up to whatever speed that you want because there's no resistance in that flow. And because of it is kind of an analogy that I can use on why a 720p signal will be, it just basically does not get compressed at all when you're streaming it through a 4K signal. And I have other cameras like this one and this one that are producing 4K, so they are still being controlled through the computer, and everything coming out is of the highest quality in 4K. So even though you get a camera like the ZV-1F and it is producing a 720 image, it is not being compressed, restricted, or limited at all, and you're getting the best quality 720p that you can possibly get, especially from a simple USB-C cable. Because I can connect the HDMI connection that I have on my 6100 directly to it, and now I can get that 4K image. But the one thing that you'd be losing in that aspect is that you're going to be drawing from the battery itself. I would then recommend that you also still keep a USB-C cable connected just like that, and just have it running as a power source or a power draw, so that your camera constantly has that little symbol there of like the being plugged in. And once you have the power source through the USB-C, you can get full high definition 4K highest bit rate that you can get out of the ZV-1F. And I wouldn't doubt that it would look as similar as the image that I'm getting from the A6100. This is a bigger sensor nonetheless, but this is much newer technology. So I could honestly say that I feel like that the bad autofocus that we'd be getting from this camera rivals up to what you would consider bad autofocus from the previous generations of Sony's, which is not bad at all. And my hot take, like I mentioned, was it last week or the week before? If Panasonic had this level of bad autofocus, nobody would have ever complained about their autofocus, and Panasonic would have been killing the game. David saying yes, and with the cam link you're able to stream in 4K. Absolutely. Let me know if you guys want me to try to finagle that here on the fly, because I might be able to replace that camera there, my side camera, and just connect it via the HDMI to show the full length of the 4K. Okay, so I did say Windows. Okay, good to know. I caught myself though. I was like, Windows. Like, did I just say Windows? That is like, that was complete opposite. All right, this is the part that I was muted, and then I'm back again. And Kevin is answering that question, which is correct exactly. So the image that you're getting here is, like I said, the highest 720 because it's got all the lane of 4K. Sly made it. Okay, so she says, sorry I'm late. Don't have to apologize. Just got home. You make it sound so simple. I feel like I took everything to the kitchen. Well, the kitchen sink, talking about the kitchen sink to stream remotely, I've done live streams from bathrooms. The reason why is because in hotel bathrooms, it has the best lighting. So, lighting first, then camera, and I was able to just prop up and this is back then, my older Apple MacBook Pro A6100 cam link. I then connected the Zoom H5 as my interface with a Rode Pod mic, and I did an entire live stream from the hotel, and that was, wow, man, I think about that, that's gonna be 2 years ago already, because so many things have changed in 2 years. I really start thinking about how things are going, and I can't take this, this grin off my face, because of the fact that I'm very fortunate, and I at least feel that I'm recognizing it. Because if it comes to people starting, like, just anyone in any way, shape, or form to do like a completely 180 and shift directions drastically and go from, like me, fixing iPhones and being in the repair field, having basically like a startup business, doing that, and shifting gears completely and starting up in the creative space, in the content creator space, that I'm just like 2.5 years in. That if you were to say, oh, I would like to transition from one thing to the other and I have a 5-year plan, most people would be like, that sounds good. 5 years to completely transition would be pretty good. And the fact that I've been able to transition so fast that I've already been within this space for 2.5 years is mind-boggling. I love this. I'm just gonna leave these out there. Oh, thank you, Paul, for sharing the link for my ZV-1F video. Scott's in the house saying hello. Roy is here as well. Kali! Question. Standard SD or micro? Also, I noticed that the micro SD cards are being sold with SD adapters that read and write. Are they I'm putting my mouse over the thing so I can't read it. Are there degradation issues that I should be aware of? No, not degradation. Like, it's not that it's like gonna degrade or like lose functionality anytime soon. What it does is that it limits you on the read and write speeds of the physical capabilities of the card. So when it comes to SD cards, there's ratings on them, right? And let me see if we can get into this. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's show you another thing. Right here, this little trash can button, I can hit that one time, product showcase on, and now I should be able to product showcase this. So there we go. That takes the face tracking eye thingy and now allows you to put things up close to the camera. So with that, the numbers on the side of this is what we have to pay attention to. Let me see if there, that's a good view of it. SD V30. The V score is what you really need to be looking at on the SD cards, right? Because that's kind of giving you an idea of the capabilities of video recording with SD cards. I might have an example around here if I could find the box. Oh, let's see. You can find certain SD cards, which I've bought some because depending on the application and like what camera I'm gonna use with it, you can find yourself some inexpensive SD cards. But the issue with them is that the majority of them could not have adequate speeds. So here's an adapter one. Let's see, can I find that slow one? Yeah, that's it. And you might tend to find them with even higher capabilities or capacities with a cheaper price. So for example, you might see both of these cards as the same, and you see one that says Ultra and you're like 128 gigs, yet the Ultra one is a lot less expensive than the 64 gig one. And you can say, hey, but this one says that it does 120 megabytes or megabits per second, and the other one says 95. What gives? Well, because those numbers are arbitrary to data and not to video files, because video files and video file recordings, the way that they get implemented with these cards, is not the same path. It's not the same way that they get utilized. So going right back to these cameras, as you can see, this one has that V30 in the Extreme Pro, and you see nothing like that on the Ultra. See? And when you start, hey, I don't even see a V score. Kind of really doesn't have one. It is so bad for video recording that if I were to put it even into this little camera here, the Sony ZV-1F, it will tell me that I'm limited to only 60 bits per second compression rate for my file. So even though that is an 8-bit file, it will then kind of compress it a bit more because it needs to give you a less quality file so that it has the bandwidth to actually record it, because of how slow this card receives information. And that 128 bit per second could literally mean that it can read, like your computer can read this card up to that speed, but writing data to it, oh, slow as dirt, molasses. So would not recommend the Ultras for video, but Extreme Pros, definitely, because they have that little simple V30. So there's higher grades of the V rating for video, but the price increases exponentially with the increase in that. But any V30 card should give you the capability of recording at least 4K 30 frames a second. Anything beyond that, knowing that you're going to be dealing with high bitrate files and things like that, not only are you going to be looking for a higher capacity card, something in at least 128 gigs or maybe even higher, maybe 256, but also with like a V60 or V90 score, because you're going to need it for those higher bit rates, especially if you want to start shooting in something more than 4K 30. And that's where a lot of these camera companies, that's kind of like their unspoken secret, right? That they'll tell you, yeah, our camera will do excuse me, yeah, our camera will do 4K 120 frames, like the new ZV-E1, and apparently the, like what I spoke about last week, the rumored A6700 camera. So the A6700 camera that's rumored to come out is gonna come out with 4K 60, but rumored to get 4K 120 with an update. Not only do I reference or give you the knowledge of, don't ever buy a camera with hypotheticals in mind, right? If you're not looking to buy the camera and only have it do 60 frames at the 4K and in hopes to get that 120, I will tell you to completely hold off. Wait for the firmware to come out first, and if the camera ever gets there, then purchase it at that point. Or yeah, That would be my recommendation to you. Don't ever buy a camera or any equipment with the speculation of a firmware update that you're gonna get something hypothetically in the future. Do not recommend that at all. But with that being said, these cameras that are going to be able to produce that type of image are not going to be able to do it on a V30 card. So this UHS 2 Extreme Pro 30 V30 card, the V60 cards, they're not going to be able to keep up with the demand, and that's when you start dealing with QXD cards and these higher priced memory cards that are very expensive. And you're talking about $600-700 for 128 gigs, 256 gig memory card, just so that you can get those frame rates. So it's not just as simple as like, hey, I got the lens and camera, now what do I do? Because even though you can budget those things in and say, yeah, I'm going to be spending $2,200 on the ZV-1, then maybe like another $800 on a lens, that's $3,000. You're not putting into account that you're probably going to need to spend another $600 on memory. Maybe another $120 on a battery. And all those things start just stacking up. Now, if you have the budget for it, more power to you. But I just want you to be aware of exactly what it requires to get the things that we hypothetically say that we want out of these cameras. I try to keep it as simple as possible. Oh, and then just to finally touch on that, all of that breakdown, I went on a soliloquy, is to basically say that the majority of these little micro SD cards don't have the physical capabilities of running video in the V60 and the V90 cards because of the size and the size of the contacts, which the contacts are the little gold pins on the back, right? They could, heat dissipation, all of those things that are required when you're transferring such big files. And the fact that you're having to put it into like a little cartridge, because now that cartridge becomes another point of resistance, which will slow down the data rate. Not recommended to use these in the cameras unless you're going to use it for photos. There's some that you have the higher, I think the V90, the V60 micro SDs, and that's if you're shooting 4K on a drone, because that's the only card, but the capacities are going to be limited and the prices do tend to start creeping up when you want the higher quality cards in the smaller form factor. But as far as being worried about those cards degrading over time, they do not. And to give you a last example, this is my little stack of micro SD cards that I have right there within my card. This is how I organize them. I put them in gaff tape so that I can just, if I can demonstrate exactly, am I in the product showcase mode still? Maybe I turned it off. That's the shot. That's the money shot. And I put them on a piece of tape so that whenever I need one, I can just simply take it off. And then once I'm done, I just stack them together and able to just drop that within the rest of my memory cards. So that's how I organize my micro SD cards. Just a simple little piece of gaff tape. Alright, he's got another question. It says, in my last few live streams, Ecamm hid or rearranged the overlays in the middle of my live streams on lock scenes once the Mac Mini and the second one was on the Mac Studio. Ever happened to you? Not with scenes. And even like right now, like I wasn't having a problem with Ecamm. I was having a problem with crisp. And the other thing with with me mixing up my scenes is the fact that I have preset keys to this, and I totally rearranged it. So when I go to this camera, the reason why I'm upside down is because this is when I use the ZV-1F as my overhead camera. No, that was supposed to work. So anyway. And now I'm just like cycling through them. So when the camera, the computer in Ecamm recognizes the camera, it already knows that when it's on the overhead view, instead of having it like a backward shot, I flipped it so that it looks in the correct orientation. But now when I go back to that scene, it still has the camera memory of it being backwards. That's why I show up upside down. But that's just because I changed the location of the ZV-1F to being the front-facing camera for today instead of being the overhead. Hey, Carlos is here in the house saying, that's awesome, Louis. Gonna take my Asun Simo out to the beach in the camping spot and try streaming 5G in 1080p. Yeah, that's the whole thing. You know, that's a good thing. Like if you're limited in bandwidth, right, and you're trying to do this mobily, like I could then change my Ecamm settings to say I'm not gonna stream in 4K. Let me stream at 1080p. And 1080p is a much easier lane for your data services to handle, like your 5G. So some of you might not know this. This might be some information, but if you have like wireless tethering on your phone, right, or through your service provider, and that you can create a mobile hotspot, that mobile hotspot can be shared through your cable just the same way, and it doesn't have to be Wi-Fi. So I can take my MacBook Air, I can go anywhere, like Carlos was mentioning, to the beach, and not be connected to a Wi-Fi at all, have good 5G signal, and plug my phone directly into my computer like if I was gonna download music. And that same connection is gonna power up my phone, and then I'm gonna switch on my hotspot and say send it via USB. And now my computer is using my phone's internet, but not as a hotspot location using the wireless capabilities, but using the cable, which is always better through a hardline. So if you got a hardline connection to 5G, and then you're saying I'm going to use a 1080p signal, there shouldn't be any issues why you can't live stream from pretty much anywhere. Mobily, like moving while you do it, is adding another layer of complexity to it, which we can maybe touch on that on another day. But being able to sit at a location, see that you have like strong signal from your phone, and going live from that location should not be an issue. Kevin's curious to see how that goes. Yeah, I actually checked out one of his live streams using that Simo, the Asun Simo kit that he was talking about. I think it was Wednesday that he went live. So it looked pretty good, especially for something like that. And I don't know if some of you have seen Tom Buck. He's also dealt with, what is that product? Oh, I'm running a blank on the name right now. Was it the Vivo? Nah. That doesn't ring a bell. But basically, it's like an all-in-one kit that you can plug in a not only an SD but a SIM card with your like cell service, and you can pop it in directly, and it will just use the cell service natively from the device, and then send your signal out that way. So I like how you organize the cards. Thank you, like the accordion. Hey, Randy made it. How are you doing, sir? And for all the mothers out there, before I forget to mention it, happy holiday, happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there. Rest in peace, Mom. But Another bit of information that some of you might not know is that tomorrow, being Mother's Day, is also the 14th of May, which is my birthday. And this happens all the time. Like, it's through rotation, and because of the calendar, that my birthday lands a lot of times on Mother's Day just the same. And it's kind of another thing that I've always had with my mom, where it was always just like to us, it was kind of just like another day. But yes, tomorrow I will be officially 42 years old, but I don't feel it. And I can't tell you more than anything that I'm having a blast. I am very fortunate to be able to do what I do, and it's something that makes me happy. Like, um, the fact that I get to work with such amazing people, do something that I love, and still make money from doing it is something that I would wish for every single one of you, because I finished producing the Flow podcast on Tuesday, right? And as soon as I said bye to everyone, I sat with like the biggest grin on my face for like an hour. Just sitting there, I was like, this is so dope that I get to call this my job, right? This is what I do to provide. And like, all of, within jokes, and still sending messages to Doc Rock, and like because of things that he said on the live stream, and I'm like poking jokes at him, and being in communication with the Ecamm team, with Mr. Moderator, sending texts back and forth when we're joking on our friends. And it is such a awe-inspiring change in my life that I always end up talking about it. I always want to share it with you all, because it is something that I stay, like, I make sure that I give it its respect and its recognition, because it's something that I appreciate so much. Speaking with such amazing people. Okay, so Randy says, hello everyone. I was looking at the ZV-1F today at Best Buy. It looks like it can't do what it's gonna do, which is, I'll tell you the truth, this is my number one go-to camera right now. It's even beating my NEX6, because this guy, when it comes to photography, was like my easy, like, for example, this guy's a beast. This is a magnesium alloy body. So one thing that I feel confident with this camera is that if I drop it, it's gonna survive. And the reason why is because I have. With Aiden, I've taken this camera and I'm shopping, right? And he grabs it through the lanyard and just tossed it right over, and I'm like, oh, that's it. That's rest in peace camera. And when I come and grab it, it's just as good as it was before. Now, I rescued this camera from a neglected home, right? So the cracks that you see on the LCD at the bottom there, they were there when I got it. It's okay. It's okay. But that I've used the heck out of this camera, and as of late, for both video and photography, I've been just grabbing this guy. I've just been, hey, you know what? I got the batteries. I have it in the mix. Boom. And for those of you who were also here last week, that when I was talking about, excuse me, my new car channel is based all around on this camera, kind of just making it as simplistic as possible. So it's serving a double purpose for me there. The only additional footage that I'm adding to that channel is iPhone footage. So if I wanted to just like highlight something and point something out, I'm just pulling out my phone and recording with the phone as additional B-roll footage. But everything A-roll and everything that's supposed to, like, just the majority of all the footage is coming from this one camera, to try to just make it as basic as possible. I do all my extravagant camera work and everything here, right? And over there, I'm just making it about the car and documenting my journey on the transformation that I'm gonna make with it. All right. Sly says, I've been having trouble with Crisp as far as which mic it picks up, and sometimes it picks up the XLR, and other times, for no reason, it picks up the USB. That's so interesting because I haven't had any of those issues. And I think Paul was having some issues with Crisp, and that's why he mentioned even earlier within the chat, like, welcome to like the troubles of Crisp. But I haven't really had problems with Crisp. Like, I just took that pause right now to check the levels, and like the air conditioning's on. Aiden's watching cartoons. And right now Crisp is like, the one thing is saying like that it's not active but it's still working. So the worst thing that I've had with Crisp was basically today, where it just decided to just shut down and mute me because it was like there was no microphone for Ecamm to pick up. Oh, you nailed it, Kevin. Thank you. The YOLO box. Bro, I could not remember that name for the life of me. Somebody put a gun to me like, tell me the name of the stupid little box. I would have been like, done. Take it out. Nice to know, everyone. Peace out. Because I could not remember the name of that thing for the life of me. So thanks again, Kevin, for, yes, the YOLO box. So the YOLO box that Tom Buck has used, I think, is similar to what Carlos is dealing with in that little system there. The Akun. Did I say that right? Axum. And yeah, so the YOLO box allows you to put an SD card, a SIM card for the service. It does multiple cameras, switching, microphones, all that thing in a little compact box that also transmits. And seems like a very interesting piece of kit. Even the fact that you can use it as just like a field monitor, right? So let's say you were just using a completely a full-fledged camera, you can just have that on top as your field monitor, just the same, which would be very interesting. You know, thinking about that, if you can use it as your field monitor, right? Look, this is just how my mind works. It would just go down the lane and just run off, and I'm like, So YOLO box, you can bring video in and then broadcast it out, meaning if you wanted to get the highest quality visuals, or for example, yeah, you can stream on the fly with any camera and make it completely mobile, right? Like, you can take a camera and let's say like you were recording a movie and transmit that signal onto like your YouTube live as like, hey, this is what we're actually recording. This is what we're actually getting, right off the rip. Interesting. Thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. The cake, yes. Let me ask you guys, what was your favorite birthday cake? Me, it was cheesecake. Whenever I had a birthday, it would be like, what type of cake? Cheesecake. I'm not big on frosting, but cheesecake. Oh my goodness. New York style all day. And now, as an adult, I'm like lactose intolerant. Not to that point, but to the point where if I do have cheesecake, I need to have these guys around. Because it'll be a bad night if I decide to have a slice of New York style. I have to agree with you on that. Not sure exactly what I was talking about, but I like it. Happy birthday. We're only X years and 3 days apart. Yes, and happy belated. Sly's birthday was on the 11th. Yes, on the 11th. So yes, just happy belated. I hope you had an amazing birthday. Oh yes, one of the coolest teams I've worked with. Absolutely. Yeah, like absolutely love it. I love what I do. So I only wish that to everyone. Thank you. Paul says I can't celebrate my birthday anymore. The fire department won't issue first. That's great. That's great, Paul. I love it. It says the price difference is quite a bit different compared to the Xsun unit, but also has a ton of other features added to it. Well, that's a good thing. Like, I have no idea what either of them cost. Like, that's one thing I could honestly tell you. I have not a clue what either of those units cost and what it would be compared, but it would make sense. It says white or yellow cake with chocolate frosting as far as traditional cake, but cheesecake is also my favorite. It just is like, because this is the whole thing. I like cake, right? But I actually like, I'm not the biggest fan, once again, of frosting. Like, I would take the inside parts of the cake. So, for example, going to like a quinceañera, right? Puerto Rican here. Going to a quinceañera and they will have like a nice cake, or going to a wedding that even though you have a nice dressed up cake, you're getting sheet cake as like your portion, right? And that's coming from the back. And for those of you who might have never heard of this, just a little context. Basically, the nice pretty cake for the wedding gets put on the table, and the section that gets cut out for the husband and the wife, but everyone else is going to get the sheet cake, which is made the same exact way with the same exact ingredients, just in big sheets, and you're getting cut out these little squares. And I prefer that, you understand, because it's got more of the cake and the filling and the cake and just a layer of frosting on top, cut so that it can be distributed amongst the rest of the, I would say the rest of the guests of the wedding, quinceañera, or anything like that. Angel food with strawberry and buttercream frosting, says Sly. Oh, it's another good one, red velvet. I'm not gonna lie, but I might ruin some of you guys' minds right now. I used to work at the Cheesecake Factory, right? The Cheesecake Factory has a like fusion of a red velvet cheesecake cake, and I think they also do it with the carrot cake, which is basically like a carrot cake and a cheesecake, and it is amazing. Paul says, I'm right there with you. We just get number. Yeah, the candles with the numbers, just like this represents, right? Oh, German chocolate or red velvet. Yes. But you know what I like German chocolate? Whenever I hear German chocolate, my mind goes straight to Cold Stone Creameries, because that is my favorite there. If you get a chance to visit a Cold Stone Creamery, get the German chocolate cake thing. It's freaking amazing. They take coconut shavings and they rasp it right there in front of you. It's freaking amazing. Crazy cake for me, please. You know what, Gretchen? Can you elaborate? Because I know we've just reached the end of the chat and that is the last one, but can you please elaborate? Because I'm not familiar with crazy cake. Out of all the cakes, right? And while I wait for that, we're going to do this. We're going to do Cities Gaw. Channels that I think you should go and watch. And this week's Cities Gaw is D for Darius. Now, this is a filmmaker / creator. And I want to emphasize that because I really feel like him and like Josh Yo, they're kind of like on this next level. And this is someone that I consider not only educational, but more entertaining. But it's educational because it's so entertaining. And that's what I want to like try to iterate with Darius here, because this man is just like an amazing creator. As you can see, like his latest video is I shot a film on a cheap camera with expensive lenses, which reference back to one of the things that I always talk about being, glass before ass, that the optics are way more important than the camera body. That's why I can take a 13-year-old camera like this and get amazing images, because I'm putting the highest quality lenses in front of it. With that being said, he is someone who is dedicated to that film space, and he is an amazing storyteller. Like, he wraps you up within his content, which is why I said, even if you're just not even looking to learn, I would recommend you check out D for Darius, because you just might like the way he builds his stories. And if you do that, then unfortunately, even if you didn't want to, you will learn something from this man, because that's how he delivers his content. He just makes it so intriguing that you are inherently learning from him, whether you want to or not, because he's just going to be dropping his point of views and what he's doing it, and he explains it in such a detailed and specific way that you end up picking it up almost like through osmosis. So if you haven't checked out Mr. D for Darius, I highly recommend you check out his channel. It's one of my favorites. Like he never disappoints, because he always takes that like different angle, right? And that's why I really say he's more of a filmmaker who creates content for us, and for that I'm very grateful. Thank you, D. And if you haven't, I definitely tell you to check out D for Darius as this week's Cities Gaw, channels that I think you should go and watch. So let's go back here. All right, back to the ZV-1F view, and as you can see, it's doing fine. Now, let me know also your opinion as well on the audio, because ever since I switched over, I've been on the ZV-1F audio this entire time. So the audio, visuals, and everything is coming out of this simple little camera. And this is going to conclude my live stream with the ZV-1F. Let me know your thoughts on how it looked, how it sounds, and how you might use this piece of tech in your own live streams. Okay, Sly says, interesting fact. If you take a picture from the back of the cake, the number reserve, so 42 becomes 20. Oh, it reverses. Oh, so yeah, so then I'll be 2024. Nice. Okay, Gretchen is explaining. Crazy cake is also called depression cake. It was the first cake I learned to make when I was 5 years old. No eggs. It's a chocolate cake with son-in-law and what was the last part? No eggs. It's a chocolate cake. Both son-in-laws insist on it for their wedding cakes. So it's called crazy cake because I guess it's a chocolate cake with no eggs. But it's still just basically like a chocolate cake. My mind, right, which I couldn't, like, words. Let me put that together. My mind went directly to, like, confetti cake. And that was the only thing, but I know confetti cake. So I was like, it can't be confetti cake because I know confetti cake. And she said crazy cake. So that's why I appreciate you bestowing that bit of information onto me. I do appreciate it because that's something that I'm gonna look into. I right away, my mind's eye thought of like white cake with a bunch of, you know, colored dots, you know, like from, what is it? I think they put sprinkles in it or something. You know, they have like the multiple colored confettis and stuff like that. That's where my mind went. Thank you for sharing the D for Darius, sir. Appreciate it. It says, but it has vinegar in it too, and salad oil. Oh, Gretchen, I'm gonna look up that recipe because that sounds interesting. I I am the biggest vinegar fan. Like those are one of those flavors that like salt and vinegar chips, like my favorite. Like it's just so good. And you get that I forget the brand, but the kettle cooked ones, the kettle cooked like crunchy old school salt and vinegar chips. I think there's something. I think it's something Cape Cod. I think it might be the brand, but not to get hung up on the brand. Even the Lay's, right? Freaking love that so much to the point where like you burn off the roof of your mouth because of all the vinegar and the salt and just eating so many of those chips. It's like, oh, that's why I don't buy them. Hint: if you don't buy the things that you like so much, you won't eat them, right? So to avoid gaining a lot of extra weight because of salt and vinegar chips, I do not buy them. I absolutely love them, but then it also makes it better. So the times that I do partake in eating these chips, it's almost like validated. Like if I'm out and about and they're there, it's going down. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. The visual dad is in the house saying, "Hey all, how are you doing? Thank you for making it, even though we're closing things out now." Once again, I want to send a warm message out to all the mothers there for Mother's Day tomorrow. It's also my birthday, so thank you to all for the happy birthday wishes. Highly appreciate everything you guys do. I appreciate the Camera Junkie crew. You guys make this experience the most fun experience that I have week in and week out. That's why it's been 128 consecutive weeks without skipping a beat. And if you're not aware, if this is your first time, just know that we're going to do it all over again next week. Same time, same place, same location. Streaming from Miami, Florida, right here from the Camera Junkie channel. We're going to be doing the live stream, Camera Junkie live stream episode 129 next week, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be here, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces here. It says she's going to send it to me. Oh, I can't wait. Kathy saying, now I'm craving salt and sugar. Absolutely. And thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, for all the happy birthday wishes. Everyone, we've done it. Another episode in the books, and I can't wait to do it all over again next week. What we talk about, we'll see. We'll find out. But we're always going to have a blast here on the Camera Junkie live stream. Thank you, as always, for hanging out, for taking your time, your most precious commodity, and spending it here with me on the Camera Junkie live stream. I love every single one of you, and I can't wait to see you all next week. Talk to you.